This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
We are told that the miracle is the means for healing our sickness, but it is not the healing itself. The healing, you could say, is the side effect of the correction that took place in our thinking where the miracle occurred. The miracle undoes misperception in our mind and any type of healing results. Healing tells us that our mind accepted correction and recognized that we are not separate from our source from which the miracle came. Healing is not a miracle because the miracle is a thought of God that contains the light of truth. It has the power to correct error. Healing does not contain the light of truth because it is what results from the undoing of error or darkness. The undoing of the darkness is not the light itself. To speak of a miracle of healing would then be combining two orders of reality because the miracle has reality and truth, or at the spiritual level. But sickness and healing only have reality in our mind, being false thoughts or illusion. In the pre-separation condition, we had no need for healing because there was no fear. The belief in separation and fear goes together. So until our mind can recognize that the separation is unreal and lets it go completely, we will need healing because we will be fearful. Health is inner peace, and sickness is some form of external searching for peace. If we are seeking for peace externally in the physical world, we must believe we can find it there and not within us. So we must also be perceiving the cause of our lack of peace outside of us. Even when we recognize that the disturbance to our peace, be it fear, pain, conflict, etc., is experienced within us, we will believe that something separate or in our external situation caused it. In level confusion, our mind does not recognize its causal role in how it is experiencing life. It does not see itself as the maker of its own fears. I will see something outside of itself as the cause of its suffering or problems. This includes the belief that our own body and what we do has causal or creative power to bring about suffering and hurt in us or others. We come to perceive the body as if it has a mind of its own. Valeria Teles interviews Eloisa Ramos, the author of Beyond Self-Esteem, Discovering Your Boundless Self-Worth. Eloisa Ramos was born in 1960 in a farming village in Guanajuato, Mexico. Her family moved to Northern California in 1968. She graduated from Stanford University with a BA in sociology. She married, but when 2 of her 4 children developed asthma and substance sensitivities, she began looking for another way to help her children. It became clear to Eloisa that mainstream medicine did not offer a permanent solution for their health issues. In finding another way to help her children, she discovered EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques. She is a certified EFT master practitioner with the AMT. EFT tapping has opened up a new world of possibilities for Eloisa, her children, and her clients. She has evolved surrogate EFT to the Ramos clearing technique, which uses muscle testing to find unconscious non-serving beliefs and energetic imprints. Using the principles learned in A Course in Miracles, she helps her clients release, clear, and let go of the obstacles to the awareness of love, which is the miracle, the source of healing. May her work help to light the way for all to uncover the truth that is within. Meet Eloisa at healing-with-eft.com. Here's the interview with Eloisa Ramos.
In your own words, who is Eloisa Ramos?
Yes. Well, let's see. Eloisa Ramos would be, you could say, a character with a label by Eloisa Ramos. But in truth, there is no Eloisa Ramos. I know that sounds weird.
Right. Not to me. Not to me.
Yes. So we each take on an identity as we seem to be born. And of course, we're born to a place, a time, a family. And a lot of our self-identity forms, or at least the concept of a self-identity comes from all of that. And, later on, we take on the idea of, well, I graduated from Stanford. I have a BA in sociology, and I have children. I'm married. And so there's all this, there's a chronological series of events that occurs, and we make that past kind of like a record of what we are or who we are. And I think we do that because we fundamentally don't know, or we don't remember the truth of what we are. I recall when I was a freshman in college, that was a question that came up for me. Who am I? Because it seemed like the self that I had come to know as Eloisa Ramos was more like a mask. I began to notice and that mask could maybe change depending on who I was interacting with or the situation, whether it was a formal event or whether I was with friends just casually talking. So I really began to go into that a little more. And, much later, when I came to the study of A Course in Miracles, the Course says, how is it possible that you cannot know what you are? Because I am that which I am, but to not know that does seem kind of strange. So I think the problem is that what we are in truth is not a concept. And when we look at ourselves as a separate individual, we have to make a concept of ourselves in order to think about ourselves in a particular way. And then we do the same thing for others. Yes. And so we call that sort of our ego identity. And of course, we see that as more of a personality, in a body. But I think that the more we really look into the deeper questions of life, we begin to discover that there's this greater truth within us. And it's a spiritual truth that, can connect us to a deeper knowing or a remembering of what we are that is not tied to the things of this world. Yeah. So it's kind of a long answer to that question.
It all makes a lot of sense to me. How did you come to these understandings, Eloisa?
Yes, I think it did start back in college because I came from first generation. My parents came from Mexico, and they only had like a first grade education, and I went to Stanford, and I hadn't really been on my own. Although I was very independent in a sense from the beginning because my mom didn't speak English. So I sort of learned the English, and then, I was translating at my own parent-teacher conferences, which is kind of awkward. But I think that once I went to college, and around that time, I started really looking at the things in the world that didn't make sense to me. And I just started questioning my beliefs. At that time, is that really what I believe? And how is it that, intelligent people on both sides of the question, for example, of abortion, cannot disagree, cannot come to an agreement on that. So those kind of questions, were always very interesting to me. And I think that the college experience gave me that opportunity to really explore them.
And then I know you went deeper with EFT, I think you call it. Of course,
Yes.
A Course in Miracles, that's another influence, and then the EFT. Actually, I would love for you to talk for a moment about how you discovered A Course in Miracles and the EFT healing modality.
The EFT, yes. So I was already on this path, looking at what I was believing. And after I married and had kids, two of my kids had asthma and a lot of allergies. So I started looking for alternatives to help them with that. And through that, I found EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques. And it turns out that Gary Craig, the founder of EFT, was a Course in Miracles student. So that's where I first heard of it. And then the book just sort of showed up in my life. I was at a garage sale and it was there. So I bought it. And it just, the things that really attracted me to both EFT and A Course in Miracles were that they were methods to move faster on this journey for me, because I had already been on it since college. But once I found the tapping and I saw how quickly it can release a lot of those false beliefs, a lot of those, stuck emotions, and it just brought so much healing. And then, I started applying the principles of A Course in Miracles, and that just, it's like, a bullet train. So it's about saving time, and the Course itself says that. The miracle saves thousands of years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And, so ultimately, I think that, people that are on this spiritual journey are here to learn the lessons that that will help awaken us and heal the mind. And I think that once we take that journey seriously, we're ready to jump on opportunities that show us that there's a way to save time.
That's refreshing to hear that way, a way of saving time within the context of the human experience, right, Louisa? Because there's no time and space from the spiritual perspective.
Well, yes. And, the value in saving time is that there's so much suffering in time. And that's what makes it more of an urgency. Now, at some point, the benefits that time seems to offer us become outweighed by the suffering. And I think that that's, for most of us, that's the turning point where we look for another way. Because ultimately, let's see, there's a limit to how much we're willing to put up with in terms of suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. You mentioned the purpose, almost like the purpose of the human experience being to learn, to heal the mind. That's very interesting. I never heard it that way before. Very refreshing again. So is this something that we choose somehow? Because I have heard so many ideas and concepts about coming back here in a new human body, mind continuation, and then you kind of migrate to a new body with the same ideas, kind of misunderstandings. And then we're just kind of perpetuating suffering and pain. Is that something that resonates? Or it is in alignment with the teachings of A Course in Miracles and your own inner wisdom, Eloisa?
Yeah, yes. So what the Course says is that on earth we heal, and in heaven we create. Our true nature is to be creative. But with an unhealed mind, we are miscreating. We're misusing the power that we have. So the focus is on healing the mind so that we can remember our true identity, our true self, that is still co-creating with God. And so the experience of time is to remember, to help us release the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is what we are, because we are not separate from love, from God, from eternal life. So for me, that's what the spiritual journey is ultimately, because it's a healing journey. And Course in Miracles emphasizes forgiveness, to practice forgiveness. And ultimately that, true forgiveness is what heals anything, everything. So the miracle is the change in perception from perceiving ourselves as something that is vulnerable and weak, a body, an ego, a separate self apart from our creative source. Because what we do is we limit the power of our mind when we don't recognize our true oneness with creation, with creation, all life, and with our source. Yeah.
So I wonder what freedom is when it comes to this experience of coming here, being in the body, and then healing the body. Is there an ultimate destination per se? Will this end the experience of trying to heal the mind? Will one day end? And what is the ultimate goal with all this that we go through?
So the healing of the mind and the body is just the mirror of the mind. So any healing that shows up in the body is really the reflection of the correction in our thinking, in the error in our thinking. And so the miracle that brings about the healing is really the recognition that our true freedom is in choosing love. Okay? Because God created us with a loving will. Okay? So our will is inherently loving, and we have forgotten that, and we have turned it upside down. So for many of us, we believe that our will is bad. It's evil, it's sinful, and for that reason, we don't trust. We don't have trust in ourselves. We don't have trust in our brothers. We don't have trust in God. So we have really misperceived our true nature and the true nature of God and the true nature of others. And so we become stuck in fear. Yeah, and once we're stuck in fear, we become, you could say that we imprison our will, because fear puts us in a place of scarcity, and it then becomes a game of survival, which can become, very vicious, because it's basically kill or be killed. And so it's a lot of suffering, it's a lot of conflict, it's war, it's battle, it's unhappiness.
And ultimately, this is not real, right, Louisa? Like this world, I think it's something that we talked in our first interview, and I think I have talked to somebody
Yeah.
else about A Course in Miracles, and they said that this is not real.
Yes, it's not real, but when we are in fear and when we are in pain, it's going to
It
feel
does.
very
So
real.
true.
Yeah, and so, all of that can be healed, and it can be healed precisely because it's an illusion, it's not real. Yes, but the experience itself is going to be experienced as real because we believe it. So anything that we believe will have quote unquote reality for us. Okay, not necessarily for anybody else, but we're going to experience it as real.
So
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
So,
Thank you for clarifying
yeah.
that. I know that sometimes it's almost like easy to say that, right? Oh, it's not real, right? We wanted to do that all the time, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, because sometimes we want to deny the experience. Yeah, and as an escape and not feel the pain. And then it just stays trapped and it stays stuck. So it doesn't heal. It doesn't heal the mind to do that. We have to look at it only so that we can see, we can give it to the higher mind, the light of truth, to recognize that it's a misperception and let it go. Because that's where we learn the lessons. That's where the correction happens, and that's where the learning happens.
It's not a belief system when we are in touch with the knowing that our true nature is love. It's God. We don't need to believe in it. It's more of a trust kind of thing.
Yes, because it, let's see, it resonates deep within us. Oh, I already knew this, you know? So it is almost like a remembering of truth. And it's a truth that is non-changing. And, most of the beliefs that we grew up with are subjective. That's why there's different cultures that believe different things. Yeah. And that's why we can change what we believe. We can change beliefs because they're not absolute truth. They're choices, they're decisions of what we want to see and what we want to experience in the world. Once we realize, oh man, I don't like what I'm experiencing in the world, and we realize, well, it's all coming from my mind, from my beliefs, then we're, more motivated to look at that and change that.
I know that A Course in Miracles, they talk about God. They use the word God. You do too. What is the idea of God coming from that perspective? Is that an entity or it's just life itself? I would love to understand more.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not an entity because the conceptual mind tries to understand things based on concepts, which are bounded things. And so when we talk about God, we talk about the idea of something that has no boundaries, no limits, that's all powerful, that's eternal, that's unconditionally loving, and has no parts, no pieces. It's just whole. Yes, it's not a separate individual experience. It's a knowing that we are part of that, and not just a piece of it, but that we are it without being God itself. But we are part of that creation that is non-changing and therefore cannot really be born or die. Cannot be the body, and cannot be any of the things of the world that come and go and are subject to time. So it's really beyond time and beyond matter. We think of the universe, as matter, but it's all parts and pieces. And so this is beyond that. So it's, yeah.
Oh, yes, a trillion times to that, to that truth.
Yeah.
It is a paradox in a way, because as we know, it is and it's not at the same time. So it's not the body, although it is in the body or reflects itself through the body, but it's not the body. Right, and Louisa, if I may. Yeah.
Yes. So the body, the way the Course looks at it is, the body is an instrument of communication. And the body will allow the communication, or will bring forth, a little bit like a radio or a television. Yeah, and so the communication will either be inspired in spirit, or it will be what I call garbled communication, which is distorted. And that would be just ego trying to establish a self-identity separate from oneness. Yeah. And so, when we do that, when we try to establish a separate self, we're really just imagining things.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're making things up. We're making believe.
Right.
We are, we're putting on a performance. We're acting. We're wearing a mask. So it's all more of. That's why the Course calls it a dream or an illusion. It's not real in the sense of non-changing. So whatever we are believing that we are, we will act out through our behavior. But it's subject to change, so there tends to be inconsistency. So there's no certainty there, and that's where the fear comes, and that's where the distrust comes. Yeah.
So It's the belief system that we are separate, as you said, that we are independent from the whole, which is God, and we are
Yes.
not. And the whole, as you said, cannot be separated. It's impossible to separate. So God, or the idea of God, it's one thing. It's one, not two. So everything that's two or multiplicity, so that would be the illusion. It makes so much sense, Eloisa, to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I have no idea how that makes sense, but it does. It really does.
Yeah. When you really have a good understanding of that, you are really, what's the word? You can do no harm because you understand that there is nobody else to harm. It's just oneself. So, it's the giving is receiving. So what I give, I will receive. There's no way around that. And a lot of us want to believe that we can get away with stuff,
So true. So true.
and we can't. It's just not possible. It may take a whole lifetime, but it's gonna come back. And it's that gap of time that makes us forget that there's no way to really profit, because there's no way, there's that wholeness, because there really is no separation. That's the thing. So yeah.
So it feels, at so many levels, it feels true. Like when you speak about this, when I have talked to so many people about it, read myself, done so much work on it, it feels so true. And at the same time, we still have to kind of be reminded of that and still practice. That's such a paradox too.
Yes, so you could say it's a dream, and we're waking up from it, and 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 so the process of that waking up is the idea of learning our lessons.
Right. Within that imagined world, right? We are learning as through imagination, because you mentioned that before, and that really resonates true to me. We are imagining all that.
We are, and so we're learning that we are wrong.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
and that's not a bad thing. That's a really good thing, because the things that we are wrong about are fearful things, and it helps us to release fear and to live in a place of trust and peace, and happiness and joy.
I love the way you say that. You just said that again, but you wrote, the goal in all healing is the release of fear. That is so clear to me when I read that. You're about to say something, Louisa.
Yes, because health is inner peace. Okay. And the minute we go into fear, it means that there's conflict. We have conflict within. And so where's the peace? And it's the belief in separation has entered, because there can be no conflict without a belief in separation.
It's in harmony already. It's in perfect harmony. Yeah.
So all healing is really returning the mind to inner peace. And so the forgiveness plays a big part in that, because the Course looks at forgiveness as recognizing that what my brother did not happen. So what it's saying is that our perception of having been offended or attacked, or whatever it is that we are looking at, is really a misperception, because everything that shows up in our experience is coming from our mind. It's not, the cause of it is not external to us. And when we believe that the cause of our experience, of how we feel, of our pain, of our suffering, is external to us, we have just disempowered our mind. And now we're going to believe that we can be a victim, and that there are victimizers. And therefore, we're going to believe that I am justified in my attacking them. Yeah. And so we get into the idea that basically cruelty is justified. So then we have forgotten our true nature. We have forgotten love, because we have disempowered our mind and believed that now the external world, which is only a projection of our mind, is causal. You see, so we yeah, and that's what the belief in magic is. It's a belief that matter, that physical things are creative, that they're causal. So, I can believe that if I eat the wrong food, it's going to cause me to be sick. Okay. So, and it's a placebo effect. We understand the placebo effect, right? In medicine, when they do the trials, and people seem to just feel better, whether they took the actual medicine or they took a sugar pill, and then they don't know the difference. So the power is in the belief, but that applies to everything. Physical, not just medicine. We're giving the power of our mind to physical things.
It sounds so much like the foundation for suffering, isn't it? Is the basis for all suffering.
It is, because then I become almost a powerless little object in a world that can be very threatening now. Yes.
How do you apply the depth of these understandings to the EFT model, Eloisa? From my understanding, EFT has to do with the body, isn't it? Like there's tapping involved. You're still using the body as a resource or a source of some sort. So I would love to understand how it works, the dynamics between those understandings that you speak of that resonate so true to me and the EFT.
So everything in the world, everything can be used for healing, okay, or it can be used for sickness. We are the ones that give it purpose, and we give it the meaning that it has for us. So with the tapping, we're using the body to focus attention and to focus intention. And it's not the tapping itself that's doing anything. The tapping is simply helping us to stay in the present moment. It's a lot like maybe a child in school is kind of wandering off, and not paying attention, and you come by and you tap them on the shoulder, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, here I
True.
am."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the tapping is actually a way to keep us grounded in the present moment, from my experience. Okay. And then we're using intention, which is saying, okay, look, here's the problem. I'm tapping on it. And the intention is to heal. Okay. And so what we're doing with the rounds is simply allowing ourselves to be in the present moment while we're looking at it. And we're using simple reminder phrases. So we stay focused on that issue, that specific issue. Maybe it's just an emotion. Maybe it's sadness. Okay. And as we're tapping on it, we're observing it. And as we're observing it, it's coming up from the unconscious into the conscious, and it's pulling up any other threads that are connected to it. So we're bringing up the roots that have been hidden and unconscious to look at now. And so we're opening our mind to looking at the error. And once we do that, the higher mind, which is the light of truth, dispels the darkness, dispels the misunderstanding, so that after we're done with the tapping, we see the whole problem completely different. It's not there anymore. For a lot of people, they don't even remember what the problem was. If it wasn't the fact that we recorded the whole session, it was like, what problem? We didn't do anything.
True.
Because the mind makes up the problem, and it's the mind that undoes it.
Right.
Yeah.
If we can look at it, visualize looking at the body, then I can see like coming from the head, what the mind, some think that's what the mind is, which the mind is everywhere, right? It's not just in the head, but coming down to the heart and then to the organs, to the body itself. That's a beautiful way of of saying the way you just said. So the mind creates the problem and the mind dispels and finds the solution. Or it is already the solution, actually, of everything.
Yes, because problems are errors. Any problem is an error. And from an energy point of view, it's a disruption in communication, in flow. And it's a block because there's a distortion there that is, you could say, interfering with the truth flowing through, the light coming through. And that's all we're doing is we're removing the blocks.
I love the way you write. I know you sent me the article, and some of the passages caught my attention, but you have been saying that already. Until our mind can recognize that the separation is unreal and let it go completely, we will need healing because we will be fearful. So it goes back to that. Separation leads to fear because, as you said, now we see ourselves as objects. And then there's magic. That you just talked about magic, and I never thought it that way. So by believing that any of the physical world or anything in here has influence in the mind, to the mind, then that is we're creating a belief of magic. So that really caught my attention because I'm sure I have been doing that. Oh, God.
Yes, and if you think of a child, the reason why childs have such a big imagination is because they tend to see themselves as small and powerless. And so magical thinking is a disempowerment of our mind. Now, to do that as an adult, I think, is the fear of taking responsibility for that power. Okay. Yeah. So I think for the child, it's a way to deal and cope with fearful things that are so much bigger than them. But I think that, as we grow and as we become adults, I think that the power of our mind can become very fearful itself. And it's because of what we believe our will our will is. If we believe that our will is bad, is evil, we're going to be afraid of our own will. And we're not going to want to exercise it. We're going to actually imprison it. And that's not going to keep us safe. We think that that's going to keep us safe, but it's going to attract like for like. So it's just going to keep attracting fearful things, which will then support the fearful beliefs. So it'll keep us stuck in there, in the fear.
Yeah, it's a loop almost, right? It's
It
it's a
is.
cycle.
Yes.
Oh
It's a
my
cycle.
God. It sounds really wonderful, this. I mean, even the sound of it, I know the truth of it, but the sound of it, even as I listen to you speak, it's just incredibly freeing. So, wow, that fear is a sign that, as you said, errors, the mind has split. I think you call it also the split mind self, right? This is, the house is divided, right?
Yes, because we cannot completely obliterate our memory of love. That's what we are. That's the truth. But in order to hold on to believing things that are not true about ourselves, we literally have to split the mind. And so we forget, as if it wasn't there, but it is still there. You're just buried in the unconscious. And then when we're ready to heal, we have to do a lot of work to dig it up again.
So true.
Yeah.
That's why even healing work, it becomes another fearful thing for most people because we're tapping into the deeper fears, right, Louisa, within the subconscious.
Well, yes, because we have forgotten what we stuck in there. It's like having a closet, and we're having people over, and the house is a mess, so we just shove everything in there.
Yeah.
And then it's so full, we don't even want to look at it. So then we just forget about it. And then pretty soon it's like, I don't even remember what's in there. So it's in the unknown. It becomes the unknown. And, it becomes very fearful now.
I mean, one thing is to go through our own healing work, do the work ourselves to become open to explore the mind and the fears there. And then the
Mm-hmm.
other is try to help others to do the same. So I wonder if we can combine the work. Like, it seems
Mm-hmm.
like that's what a
Mm-hmm.
lot of healers that I talk to here, they do. They work on themselves while helping others. Does it make sense to you that that could happen?
Yes, it's really the same thing in my experience. So I can be working on I don't know, releasing. It could be a belief, innocence and guilt, or it could be something around judgment, or it could be something around failure, or it could be anything like that. And what will happen is that, I will be working maybe with my son on something, and then I go and meet with a client, and lo and behold, there's the same issue. Or I'm sitting down, and my husband's watching television, and I'm working there, and I look up, happen to catch a little bit of what he's watching, and there's the issue right there. So it's like another piece showing up. So the thing about healing is that it's not really coming from our own little self, because it's coming from our higher mind. It's really, so in my experience, it's just being received. So I just need to be open, and then the different pieces show up, and I just receive them. And then because I receive them, then I am able to give them. And so it's a giving receiving
Yeah.
process.
Which sounds like the definition of love in a way, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
Very much. I love the way you said
Yeah,
that. Yeah, it's the same thing in the sense working on yourself and others is the same because there's no two anyway. So,
that's
yeah.
right. It's one mind. So I think any healing work that we do, and we think we're doing it with ourselves, is not just benefiting ourselves, it's benefiting everyone. And working with allergies, and it was very interesting that I would work maybe with a mother. She had sensitivity to, like, her cell phone, but her daughter did too. And then, I cleared the mother, and then the daughter's fine. Or the daughter had an allergy to something, and we worked with her and released that, and it also released in her mother. So
Amazing.
there's so much, yeah, in the work that I do, there's just so much evidence. It's irrefutable evidence that we're one mind. And so much of the healing is distance healing. It's surrogate EFT, that there's just no, I mean, it's obvious that it's one mind. Yeah.
There's also something that keeps reminding me to dance with it and kind of be playful and light with all this.
Yes, 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 because when we're in the middle of suffering, we are definitely taking it seriously. Yes, and so we want to be compassionate with people that are suffering, but at the same time, we don't want to join in the dream. We want to join with a dreamer, but not with a dream of suffering and fear and pain, because then we will not be in a position to help
Right.
them.
We are reinforcing
Yeah.
actually the illusion, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Ah, I love the way you
Yes.
said that. So we can enjoy the dreamer, but not the
Yes.
illusory dream of separation and fear. Sometimes that can be a challenge. I have seen that in my own experience, just trying to help others around me and then kind of losing the awareness of that place that I know to be true and then merging with them,
Uh-huh.
their feelings. And that happens quite a lot, actually. I'm trying to see, because I'm always listening to life itself to guide me. And
Yes.
I trust that. So, like, even talking to you today, it's a huge reminder of that. That's what it is, like life talking to me, having this conversation with itself. How amazing that is, Louisa, because I needed to hear this. I needed to be reminded of this.
Yes, because the healing is really the way that we can help to be truly helpful is to remember the truth for others who are in that moment forgetting it and finding themselves in pain and suffering. Yes. And that's what we can offer. as love.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. Staying present, right. What a dance. That's what I call the dance, because it's not always easy to do it. Sometimes you want it out of compassion, even to join them so they feel better.
Oh, yes.
But then, yeah, yeah.
Yes. So there's something that's very helpful for me and to remember, and that is, and to really give recognition that everyone is here and has their own lessons, because we are the captain of our ship, and I cannot impose, let's see, what I think is better on anyone else, because everyone has their journey, and therefore that's the freedom that we can give each other. And it's not easy, like you said, especially with people that we love, like maybe friends or kids or parents, because we see they're struggling, we see they're suffering. But in that struggle and in that suffering is precisely the lessons that they're here to learn. And I don't, and so who am I to interfere with that process? I don't know. I don't know everything. Yeah, so I have to trust, and I have to step back, because I have to trust that, God's has their back. So I'm here to offer support when I'm called to do that, but I'm not going to take on the responsibility, you see, because
Yeah.
that would mean that I think I know what is best, and I don't. Because I'm just receiving. I'm just open to receiving. And everything that I have is because I have received it, not because I accomplished it on my own, kind of thing. But it's all just given to us if we are open to receiving.
Oh my God. I love that message. What a beautiful message. Of freedom itself, isn't it? Because once we are in touch with this wisdom, this truth, and I think that's when the fun really starts, because now you live and you let live, and you just let
Yes.
life do the work. God, as you call it, to just
Yes.
do what it does, and it's takes a lot of trust, doesn't it?
Yes, and but the trust is the way. The trust is the way to live in peace and enjoy.
That's so
Yes,
true.
yeah.
So true, Eloise. Thank you so much again for your beautiful way, clear way of communicating this message, which is not an easy one to pass on using words. It's almost like indescribable. Almost like we can't talk about this, but it is possible. We are having a conversation about what the truth is. We're almost at the end. I want to mention your book. You wrote a book, Beyond Self-Esteem, Discovering Your Boundless Self-Worth. So just a quick note and comment on that. Are you writing new books?
I do have a book in mind.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
sure.
I actually, on earth we heal, in heaven we create. That's been on
Oh,
my
I
mind
love
for a
that.
while. But for now, I don't have, I have parts of it, like the one that I sent you. So it hasn't quite come together yet, but it's there.
Right.
It's there.
Yeah, I can hear that. And I love the expansion. It's like expanding on the same topic, but it's a new way of saying that. So it's very clear to me. I would love to hear from you when you have that book out there. Please contact me back, Louisa, so we can talk even more about these things. And I love the title too, the working title, right? The title of your book. That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
A lot of sense.
that's from the Course in Miracles. Yes.
What an inspirational book. I have 2 copies in my house. And of that book just came to me. I don't know how it came. It just landed here. I don't remember now, but one was for my husband, one for myself. And then I had a 3rd copy, I think for somebody else in the family. But I never got to really read it. So that's interesting. But it keeps coming back, the message, through you and so many other people that I talked to on the podcast. So that's because it resonates true with everything, all the other spiritual teachings that I come across.
Yes.
It's very much in alignment. It's the same
Yes,
message.
it's a non-duality. It's
Yes, right.
non-dualistic. Mm-hmm.
Right, which
Yeah.
is one of the reasons I wanted actually to create a specific podcast only for non-duality,
Oh,
this
okay.
kind of conversations, and then it never really realized itself. So I was just wondering, because it might be because I'm already talking about non-duality here. It seems like the message is coming through anyway, so I don't need to separate anything.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's the message, really. Don't separate anymore. So my last question to you is, what 3 experiences you wish everyone to have before they lose the body, before they die?
I think that I think inner peace is probably, a lot of people think that inner peace is boring. Yes, so they have confused, let's see, the idea of physical excitement with drama, with conflict, with fun. Yeah, and so the idea of inner peace seems to be like, oh, there's no action going, there's no, it's dull, and there's no excitement, and that's not true. Inner peace is really feeling more alive than you've ever felt. Yes, because it's experiencing life from a place of safety and openness to anything and everything that shows up in the world. And what more excitement, what more happiness can there be? Yeah. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beautifully said. And it's almost like a 1 in 3, right, message, because it means so much, inner peace. From that you can experience so much more. It's so true, Eloisa, especially being open. I think that's one of the things that really kind of came to me as a message, just being open, that trust, peace, and just trust, and then openness just emerges, and then everything else just all of a sudden it's here. It's an incredible experience, if you can call it that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I agree. So thank you so much again for your presence in this reality, in this incredible dream that we dream together.
Yes, thank you.
And everything you do, the way you do it, it's just beautiful. Thank
Thank you, Valeria.
Thank you for the encouragement too, because the body appreciates. Eloisa complains sometimes. the only part that complains in this work. But before we say goodbye, again, where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
Yes. My website, I have, it's www.healingwitheft.com. I have an EFT class now for beginners that can be accessed through there. And I have an advanced class that incorporates the Course in Miracles principles and uses muscle testing. So I have those 2 classes there. And I have a lot of information just on the tapping itself and on different topics, happiness, confidence, just the idea of how to empower, how to bring back your power, how to recognize the power of your mind for healing. And I will be adding, I like to add some pages on anxiety and depression, and also on the bipolar. So I hope to do that soon.
Wow, that sounds like very rich to me. Please keep in touch because I'd love to have more conversations and, who knows, collaborate in different ways, because this is one of the messages that it really resonates true to my heart, and it's a calling. It is. I can't deny that anymore. It is a calling to just do this. So
yes.
Thank you so much, Eloisa, for joining me. Take good care. We will talk soon. Bye for now.
All right. Thank you, Valeria.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Eloisa Ramos and her work, please visit healing-with-eft.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast.
Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.